All right, man. We have another hot mic.
Well, good. Why don't you open us up? Let's just dive
We're
on
diving
in.
right on in.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. Cole and I have an action-packed episode, par for the course. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Cole, happy Father's Day to you.
You jumped the gun on me. I was gonna say that. Yes, happy Father's Day. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I appreciate it. Father's Day is it's funny because I was like, we talked about when Mother's Day came around. We're like, yeah, it's a great day and celebrate the women, celebrate the mothers. And then like today rolls around, I'm like, it's all about me. Okay, everything is about this is my day, and it was an unbelievable day. And my daughters and wife just spoiled me. My family spoiled me.
So do you get jazzed up for Father's Day?
Absolutely.
Do you really?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where like it's like anything in life, you got to get yourself in that mindset, and you can either look at it as, oh, it's just another day, and whatever, or I took the time this year when I woke up, and my wife and daughters had some presents for me, and they made me breakfast, and I really made. I don't know if I made a conscious effort, but I kind of let myself enjoy the fact that like I earned this day. Like I've got two beautiful daughters that I love more than anything in the world, and I get to be a father, and that is the most special thing, and that's something you don't typically think about in your day-to-day life. Like you don't think to go, you do kind of, but you're not sitting there going, man, I'm doing a good job. Like, because that your most important job in my life is to be a father. That's the number one biggest priority for me. Is my relationship with God's number one, and I can get into that later. But being a dad. So, moral of the story is today I really sunk my teeth into feeling good about like where I am and like where my daughters are at, and it was just cool like thinking about. I was riding horses with Ava tonight, and she's like, we were coming back from the stable, and she's leaning on me, and I'm like, this little girl, literally, like, she made me a dad. Like, she has changed my life, and everything about me has changed because I had this little girl. And that is, like, such a cool thing and emotion to, like, wrap your head around. So, yes, to me, I really felt today like a winner, and I felt like a winner a lot of time, but I felt like I really thought about it, and I thought about all the things that my dad has given me, right? And all the fathers out there, that what they give to their children. And think about this, Hayden. Think about your dad and how the effect your relationship with him is going to have on your kids. And then your relationship with your kids, if you have sons, the effect they're going to have on their kids. That is so cool. Like that's the role of being a father is like it's the biggest role of your life. It's the biggest career move you will ever make. So there's my little rant on Father's Day.
It sounds like an all-around good day for you, and you were just a little bit more maybe mindful or present of everything that took place today, which is awesome.
I was.
What did Blake get you, by the way?
Oh my! Don't even. I might start crying on air. Blake didn't obviously know.
That's who I wanted to.
But it was from Blake, but it was like a little book, and it was why a daughter needs her father.
Aw.
And of course, it was meant to make you basically cry.
Sappy.
And Amanda's like videotaping me. I'm like, are you kidding
She
me?
wanted you.
Well, I'm a softie, dude.
Yeah.
Ava goes, you're kind of like a marshmallow. And I was like, she's like, you're kind of tough on the outside, but you're really gooey on the inside. I was like, all right, I'll take it.
Dang, she is full of one-liners. She is
really,
wise beyond her years.
She really is. So it was a fantastic.
The apple didn't fall from that tree.
What?
I had to come up with something there. Well, hey, what are we talking about tonight? Beyond Father's Day. I mean,
I wanted to dive into, Father's Day and just this weekend in general has been a fantastic weekend for me. And the past few weeks have been great. And so I think that's a recurring theme. I think things are going well. But one of the things that is interesting is for me, and in your life is personal growth. Like looking back on and seeing how you've changed, whether it's your perspective on things or the way you approach things, and actually like taking note of that. It's pretty interesting. And I read this book, and literally took notes. I can't remember. It was all Blinkist, so I didn't read the whole thing, but it was about personal growth. And one of the things that it pointed out was that when you're looking back on personal growth, you're looking back on like how you've changed. It's really good to actually, and this goes back to some of the things you've said about journaling. Like one of the things was very successful people that are very good at being self-aware. Mm-hmm. They go back and actually, like, one of the things I said to do was go take your journal, take notes, and write down how you've seen yourself grow. Go and say, okay, I used to be impatient, but now I can wait a little bit longer for things. I used to get very angry when somebody didn't respond to me right away, but now I understand that they might be busy. I used to stress about money all the time and check my bank account every 5 minutes, but now I realize that checking it that sort of stuff. And these might be like things, I mean, I've stressed about in my life, but I'm just throwing examples out there, because it not only helps you like understand where you've been, mm-hmm. but also it's kind of a confidence boosting and a self-esteem boosting thing to do. Because if you go back and say, okay, here's where I've changed, and these are all positive things. And so it was do that, and then it would say, here's where I want to change. And then how am I going and what do I want to change? And so it was a really cool, I mean, it was on Blinkist, which is kind of like a Spark Notes we've talked about. By the way, Blinkist, please shout out. Love to have you as a sponsor. But it was really cool. So I think, what I would ask you, Hayden, is where have you seen yourself grow? Personally, professionally, let's say in the last 6 months or a year.
Man, that's a tough question to answer there. I think the way that I would answer this is my philosophy on life or mindset, attitude, that has all evolved, which I think it's been for the better, obviously, which helps me on that journey or that path to self-growth. I don't want to really get into the specifics in terms of like how I've seen myself grow because, who wants to listen to that? But
I do.
Well, we can talk more offline about that. But again, someone listening, cool, maybe they're interested, maybe not. But like I want to hit home on like principles here, mm-hmm. which you kind of were bringing up based on some of the stuff that you were reading, or at least it sounds like it, mm-hmm. is the way that I attack self-growth is where do I want to be in the future? Mm-hmm. And I refer to that as my end in mind. Who is the Hayden that I want to be 6 months from now or whatever period of time? And that goes back to, okay, yeah, what things do I need to work on or do I need to change? And I'm very mindful of that. I don't necessarily check in every single day with what those items might be. And again, it goes back to building out that actual list. Like I write things down because it helps me hold myself more accountable. And I think psychologically speaking, subconsciously, I'm putting myself in positions to go out and achieve, mm-hmm. Those next levels as I continue to grow. So that's kind of how I approach that. And I definitely think, to answer your question, I have grown, but I'm not going to dive into like where I've grown the most other than the fact that I've seen a lot of change in 6 months. I'm excited for the next 6 month's.
Okay. I can get behind that. I can get behind it.
How would you answer that?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say for like my thing, I think's a personal growth aspect, maybe not in the last 6 months or a year, maybe. I mean, understanding like what I need as an individual and, where to put a lot of time and effort into things and where to put my foot on the gas and where to take it off the gas. Yeah. I think that's something that even with unscripted exchanges, I'm learning more and more every single day, and it transfers for me into different aspects of other places in my life. But, for like say for this venture, for unscripted exchanges, we know, I feel like we're in a very good spot where we know when to turn the gas up and we know when we're turning the gas up is not going to do anything but burn us out. And I feel like that's a big personal growth thing for me, because if you go back, and that's probably a fatherhood thing too, and an age thing, but you go back even 2, 3, 4 years ago, and those instant gratification, and I want to be here right now.
Yep.
No matter, and almost that unrealistic time frame and hopefulness. I feel like that's shifted a lot for me. So I think that's a personal growth thing for me. It's just understanding, having that ability, innate kind of like ability to process things and understand when to turn the pressure up on ventures, whether it's a sales deal I'm working on, whether it's something I want to promote for the podcast, whether it's a sponsor that we're talking to. When I turn the dial up, when I turn it back, I'm getting better at that. I'm figuring that out. And I think that's, something I'd like to keep learning and getting better at earlier in life than later in life, because it reduces my stress level immensely and helps me balance things out with the house projects and the things with my daughters. I'm not going to sacrifice those things, so I got to figure out how to balance the rest of the stuff out, because it brings the stress level up. So I think that's probably one area I've grown significantly, and another area I feel like I've grown tremendously professionally. This is more in the career aspect, because I could go down a rabbit hole of personal growth things. But I'm going to get kind of growth that's stems from personal growth, but in the professional setting, is that I've learned how to navigate professional, whether it's meetings with clients or meetings with other business professionals, or going to networking events, or interacting at shows, or just talking with people on like LinkedIn and stuff like that, or working on I think projects is a big one. When you're working on projects with a bunch of different people, is I've learned how to balance those relationships and be able to bring in some of my Cole-isms, my Coleness.
Hell yeah.
Which is, I want to coin that, because there are things about me that make me unique, right? There's things about Hayden that makes him unique. There's things about John down the street that makes him unique. There's things about me that make me unique and different, and a handful sometimes, right? And so I've learned how to kind of tie those together in the professional setting, learn when to turn the heat up on projects or relationships, learned how to read people and be more empathetic. Just because something's a priority for me doesn't make it a priority for you. Just because I need this right now doesn't mean that's not the fifth thing on your list of things you have to get done.
I think that's super important call out right there. And a lot of companies, no matter their size, struggle with that.
Oh, absolutely.
So-and-so says it's top priority. Cool. Well, did you talk to the 10 other people that I talked to that told me their priority's top priority?
Exactly. And I used to be all about, and this is like, I've never looked at myself as like a super narcissistic, but I kind of was. Meaning like, and maybe that's not the perfect use of that word, but it was all about me, and my wants, what I need right now.
Sure.
And that's part of my aggressive nature. That's part of my like rhino mentality, right?
Well, to chime in, I would say everyone has some degree of narcissism. They all fall on a spectrum, they say. So that's not out of the ordinary. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I would just say that I've seen a lot of positive outcomes and results and growth with relationships in that area, because I've really made an effort to put myself in other people's shoes. And I would give that advice to anybody that's growing professionally, whether they're changing careers, whether they're struggling with relationships in the office, or struggling with, whether it's, struggling in sales where you're just not vibing with prospects, you're not clicking with your customers, you're struggling, if you're an operations person, you're struggling with getting along with other people on your project's team. If you're in product management, you're struggling to get along with different groups that you have to tie in. I would say, try to do a little bit of, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. Literally, try to put yourself in their shoes. Try and ask them. Like, I've had some conversations with some of my coworkers, And even with a customer of mine on Friday, and I'll give this example. This was a great example. I had a conversation with one of my customers. Actually, two of them. It was somebody from their industrial engineering team, and then their head of marketing. And I've been working with them for about over a year and a half. We've done one project together. We've got a lot of stuff in the works. But I sent them a message. I said I titled it "Catch Up." Catching up or something, and they knew because it had been a while, and there was some stuff in the works. I'm like, I wanted to get an update. I don't want to drive you nuts. I want to know. So we get on, and we're joking around, and we're talking about my trip to Hawaii because he wants to take his son to Hawaii for his graduation from college. I'm like, I'll give you all the feedback. I'll tell you where to go. And I was like, guys, well, tell me what's going on in your worlds, like. What do you have? I'm not going to name names or anything like that because but I said, what's going on with you? And the first one's was like, here's the list of what I've got to do, right? Mm-hmm. My role, this is one facet of where we want to go with this, but here's what I have to do, right? And then I said, well, what do you have going on? What are you trying to accomplish now? I didn't say, what are you going to do to help us get this done for my I said, what are you doing right now? Tell me everything you've got on your plate. And I kind of ran through everything, maybe a little bit of a venting session for them. But I was able to go, okay, like, you're super slammed. Like, and the conversation was like about 20, 25 minutes. But I understood they felt better because now I knew what all they had going on, right? Before, sometimes you just don't know. You're like, what could they be doing, right? They're not posting about it on LinkedIn or like sending me emails about this stuff. But then I'm like, okay, I understand where I fall on that priority list. That you don't even have to. We don't even talk about it. That, and that are way more important than getting back to me on this design I did. And I understand. If I were them, I'd make that more important, right? So I would suggest to people that are not struggling or just want to get better is. Take the me aspect out of it, out of some of your relationships, and genuinely ask, go to a coworker, go to a client and say, what is going on in your world? Tell me about some stuff you're working on and what you have, you told me you were super busy. What are you busy with? And don't do it in a condescending way. Don't do it in a, oh, you're really, what are you busy with? Do it in a, I'm genuinely interested. Like, what do you have going on? Because that's going to give you so much more perspective. And also, you're going to build better relationships. People love to vent, and people want for you to understand what they're going through. So I'd give that advice to anybody. That's something that I've had a ton of success with. So that's a professional growth for me.
A lot of stuff to unpack there, Cole. I like a lot of that. I like it all, I should say. There's nothing that I don't disagree with. Or I'm finding it tough to spit out words here tonight. It's been a long weekend for me. But anyhow, I think the key point that I'm hearing there is just the power of relationships. And if you think about it, fundamentally speaking, your successes at the end of the day go back to relationships, right? If you aren't feeding your relationships or nurturing those in the right way, you probably aren't going to grow, whether that is from a professional standpoint or from a personal standpoint. And it's super important, as you mentioned, to put yourself in the shoes of others and kind of get to understand where they're coming from, which I'm really happy that you brought that up, because we all like to think that what's going on in our life is, the most important thing when there's billions of other people on the planet. One thing that I would ask is, how do you approach, or how would you, because maybe you don't necessarily have to deal with this, but let's say that you're working on a project and someone else comes up to you saying, hey, Cole, I've got this that needs to get done by tomorrow. It's top priority. How do you juggle or figure out, how do you respond to that, and how do you evaluate whether or not it truly is a priority?
I mean, when that's a loaded question, and there's like different. I'd handle it different just depending on what I've got going on.
It sounds like it depends on who the person
is. I'm a Swiss Army knife too. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Depends on, what what level of impact it's going to actually have, right? You come to me and say, I need this, can you get this done by tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And I know it's not something that and I'm pretty confident, I'm pretty confident there's the world's not going to end tomorrow if it's not done.
That sounds like instincts or gut check.
It's more of a gut check.
Yeah.
It's more of understanding, for me, I gut check it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the times, the way I handle that stuff is my brain is pretty quick to process how long something will take me. Yeah. Right? Somebody goes, can you get this done for me? If I know it's going to take me 5 minutes, I'll just get it done. I don't go to my priority list. I don't go through that. I go, oh, you need this? Okay, great. Let me get it done because I don't want it to fall back.
Yep.
And if it's something that's simple, super simple, but I'm pretty good at in my career at this point in my life and just things in general, I'm pretty good at gauging how long something's going to take me. And if somebody's going to need something tomorrow and it's going to take me, an hour and a half and it's something that can wait, I'm just going to let it wait. I'll see what I can do and I'll let it wait. I'll get it done. Mm-hmm. Or I won't. I mean, if, sometimes you get asked stupid shit too. Sometimes people ask you to do something tomorrow or get something done that is you're kind of well, what's that going to accomplish?
Right.
And sometimes I'll say that's not really worth my time.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to do that. I'm in a unique position where I do get to do that.
Yeah.
But I would say 9 times out of 10, I try to process it pretty quickly. But that also comes back to another point I'm going to make. I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders today.
You are. I'm letting you go. You're crushing it. Keep going.
I think that comes back to understanding what. Oh, I totally lost my train of thought.
I'll jump in here. I'll save you. You sure that's me?
It might come back. It might come back to me.
So, on the flip side, one thing that is not productive, and we've all done it, is just being so quote-unquote busy, or you can really call it what it is, being lazy or that instant gratification, asking someone for, hey, can you do this when you can probably do it yourself? That is, I think, a big problem that I see happen. Again, we're all guilty of it. You're lazy, you want someone else to go do it for you, and as they say, don't give someone work that you want to do yourself, mm-hmm. or if you can do it, go do it yourself. Now, again, there's a lot of nuance to that, but anyhow, there's a little bit of that going on. And then 2, there are instances where you want something so bad that you ask multiple people within the organization, and then you got, person A and person B, and maybe even person C, all trying to track down the information for you. And it's how about instead of doing that, you still just stay focused and allow one person to go try to track down what it is you need instead of trying to send 3 people out, because again, that is not very efficient. That's not very productive at the end of the day. So kind of wanted to flip the script there in terms of some things that I've seen in my work experience, things that I've done myself. Again, I'm not perfect. And it's how do we change that behavior, make sure that we are working in a productive manner and we're allowing others to work in a productive manner as well.
Well, you're spot on, and I think there's another avenue of the productivity part that you're speaking on. I like that you said you go ask multiple people, or maybe it's something that you ask somebody to do that you could just do yourself, right? Because that's something we all fall into that trap of.
Oh yeah,
and also and this is a problem I have with, call it just companies in general. Any company you go into, there's always going to be people that go, well, that's not my job.
Ugh, man.
Right? Well, that's not my job. It's cool. Okay. Really? Yeah. Just leave. I'm sorry. I cannot stand that response. Now, I don't have time for that, or I've got 5 other things on my plate and I don't even know how to do that, but that's not my job. is not an answer that I am ever cool with, and I will rip people apart when they tell me that. That's not my job, because you know what I say? It's not my job to do this, this, and this that I did for you to make it easier. So that's not my job either, but I'm doing it, and you don't hear me complaining about it. So it got me a little worked up.
I don't know how I really feel about that. And yes, obviously that's like the number one response or PC response is like, yeah, well, there's a lot of things that you do at the end of the day that aren't part of your, daily job description. But at what point could someone potentially be doing something that is way maybe over their head or something they just flat out shouldn't be doing, but no one else is willing to do it, which I think is bullshit. And that's where you have to talk to, again, that's where it's very situational. And that's where at times, I will push back saying like, look, I'm not going to do this because of X, Y, and Z.
Well, that's different. That's different.
Department should be kind of stepping in because, again, we can debate until we turn blue in the face. That's why I see where you're coming from, and at times I have that mindset too, but there's also times where I treat it as, no, there's no reason for me to do that.
I figure, I think this adds exactly to what because you're 100% right. Yeah. There are things, like you said, that come up that literally aren't your job, nor are you like, do you have the time nor the expertise to really dive into? I just think that's that response of, when somebody goes, well, that's not my job. I don't understand how to do that. Maybe ask here. I've never liked that, no, I can't do it, sorry, kind of attitude. It's more of like,
sure, there's maybe a better way to approach it.
I'm just venting a little bit.
No, it's all good. This is what we're here for, just to have an open conversation. Yeah. And another thought with that is, if you continue to take on added responsibility, yes, like the standard is like, that's how you get promoted. But I think there's a lot of times where people take on stuff thinking that they're going to get promoted and they don't get promoted.
Yeah.
So then they get burnt out. And that's where it becomes a fine line. So that's where I think, again, it's very situational. And that's where you can have those conversations with your manager saying like, hey, look, this is something that I've done. This might need to be something that, maybe you don't need to say so-and-so does, but maybe this department, or maybe, it is a new role that needs to be hired because, like, look, it's hurting me as I try to do my other daily responsibilities. That's how you would probably approach that versus, oh, it's not my job.
Right.
Now, it depends on your manager. Sometimes you can shoot the shit and just be like, I'm not going to do that, or like, that's not it.
Right.
It depends. Again, I keep throwing that out there, but yeah, a better way to approach that is just have that honest conversation. Because if you continually do that, no one's going to know, or they're going to be like, well, Cole does that. Well, is that really what Cole should be doing when he should be doing X, Y, and Z? And maybe he's failing, or maybe failing's too harsh of a word, but maybe he's not excelling as well as he can because he is trying to take on and support something else. Again, very situational.
I would say this. I thought of my point from earlier that ties this all together is, first of all, what you're saying is like, you gave me a little pushback, which I liked that. I mean, I think
I can't agree with you all the time.
No,
right?
and I think it sometimes it just gets under. It gets under my skin. I've heard that several times, in a negative way. Like maybe it was the way I've heard that from people.
From my perspective, like, yes,
you know what I'm saying?
No. I've heard what you said. Like, that's the right thing. Yes, and at the same time, I will say, the size of your company versus the size of my company different. Also is a different beast. So we're a lot bigger. I don't know much about your company. I mean, I know obviously some stuff that you shared off line and obviously here on the show, but you have a much smaller size company. So there are situations where people have to step up and do whatever it takes to keep the business moving.
I haven't.
I'm more of a. I hate saying this, but sometimes a cog, like.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, but I'll also say this: it's not. I actually haven't heard that a whole lot, and actually with my company a couple times, but our
apologies for singling you out. I made an assumption.
You didn't. I've heard that from people like that I've talked to about their jobs or careers, or they're frustrated in previous roles. Well, that's not my job, so I quit. Or that's not, and it's like that mentality is what got you fired or you didn't, why you didn't grow. It's not there are times when it's not your job, but there's also times where like, there's just a different way to approach it, maybe.
Yeah. No, again, it goes back to attitude, mindset. How do you level set expectations?
And I was thinking like, even in the professional world, when we're talking, this is my thought I had earlier, that I think we're getting close to time tonight, and we can wrap this up. What I was thinking about, and I feel like most people can relate to this, is when you have, like, let's say you've got especially when you work in an organization like you do or I do, where there are all these different moving parts. So you're one cog, or you're one piece of this project timeline, or this roadmap of it starts here, and here's where your piece is, right? Or your piece might be at the front end, and then you might have another piece later, but it's got to get through John, Jim, Mary, and Susie before it gets back to you, right?
Those are all people I work with.
Yeah, I knew I stalked you. That's why. But I feel like one of the things that we kind of tend to do, and this is where I'm making a suggestion to our listeners and just to professionals out there, is when you're in your piece, when you're doing your part, try to think about how you can make sure that the other parts that come before or after you are complemented from that. So one of the things I try to do is, I know for me, when I let's say it's a deal or a new customer I close, like, part of my job is not necessarily to go find all of the we do a lot of big appliance showrooms, right? And appliance displays and stuff like that. Part of my job is to go and research and make sure we've got the right stuff and the right fixtures in place and this stuff. That's not part of my job. But my engineering department's going to have to do that. So before I go from my step to them, because what I could do is I could just say, okay, I got the deal signed here. You figure it out, right? I'm done. I try to go the extra mile and say, okay, they're going to have to do this, and I'm completely capable of doing this. It's not my job, but it's not something that I need to be an engineer to do. I can go look up this stuff online. I can ask for the spec sheets from so-and-so. I can get that done. So I guess one of my pieces of advice is, when you're working in a team, or you're working on as one cog, is if you've got a project or you've got something and you got to turn work over or receive, maybe think about, like, what can I do to make my team, the next person's life a little bit easier. And not only is that going to make you better and more well-rounded, because you're going to know more about what the product is, what's going on, but it's also going to reciprocate back, because they're going to be super appreciative. And maybe that piece that you did takes them, maybe it takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 months, whatever. But maybe you do that piece, and because you freed them up to spend more time in their bubble on what was more important, because you took on the monotonous shit, then they're able to get better work done and maybe turn it around even faster. So I think that's just something I wanted to throw out there.
One additional point that I'll build upon, and this is going to sound like I'm just debating you the entire night. I do like all that, by the way.
Debates are good.
Yeah, they are. They make the world go round, right?
Amen, mother.
1,000%.
Yeah, I was about to hit you with that.
From a product standpoint, product-led organization or product management, by the way, check out, what was it, the previous episode or maybe the episode before that? We talk about product management.
Awesome episode, yes.
Yeah. We all like to come up with solutions to our problems. Sometimes we oversimplify. And as a product-led organization, sometimes you have to let those closest to the problem be responsible for figuring out how to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. The way that I took there's a few ways that I could interpret it, what you mentioned. Like, yeah, that's awesome that you showed initiative and like you could do some additional things on your end and maybe even present like recommendations, which is great. I'm not discounting that, but there are times where certain teams might benefit from not being held to like a biased solution. Like if Cole, you came to me saying like, hey, here's this problem. This is what I need you to do. Like, that's very prescriptive. And that's still going to happen no matter where you are from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But like a new paradigm or a product way of thinking is, here's this problem. Maybe you can sprinkle in like, this is like a potential solution that I thought of. Doesn't need to be the solution that we go with. I want you and the team to go see what other options there might be. That's where you get people to start, thinking and collaborating a little bit more versus, oh, go do X, Y, and Z for us. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So I would agree with that.
That's why I was like saying, like, I took your words well, but at the same time, there's another way that, certain departments or teams could probably internalize that. And it's like, well, he just came to us telling us like, we have to solve for it this way. And sometimes that's fine. But if 9 out of 10 times an organization that you work for is always just telling you to go do X, Y, and Z, I mean, that's the type of organization that I don't want to work for.
Well, I think it's also like relative to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you took my words a little literally because for what we do, like my design team, I don't give them shit.
Yeah,
I literally go to them and say, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking, but you're the experts, do it. But here's some like parameters of what the customer said, right?"
Yeah.
But what I think you are saying, which I wouldn't. 1,000%.
I'm just giving it another flavor.
Yeah, what I think you're saying, which I like, is do enough, present enough, but don't bottleneck. Especially in like you said, in some organization stuff, don't bottleneck a team member or somebody because that's when you start getting like cookie cutter work that might not be near as creative, innovative, or polished. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you put me in a box like. I'm just going to do exactly what you asked. I'm going to make 4 corners, and I'm going to fill it in with blue. Like you said to make a box that was blue.
Right.
I'm not going to do anything else.
Right.
So I think there's a balancing act to take with all of that.
I'll leave it with this. Ideas should win at the end of the day. Best idea, not the highest paid person in the room that's saying, hey, this is what we got to do.
Amen.
That's the new paradigm, folks.
Amen.
Well, hey, this is it for tonight. That was sign
awesome.
Off.
Awesome conversation.
I'll let you sign off. You were crushing it tonight, my friend.
Thank you guys again for listening, for guys, girls, women, and everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there once again. I had a great day. Had a great time having this conversation with Hayden tonight. Continue. We appreciate your support. Just keep it up. Keep engaging with us, and we will keep knocking it out of the park, bringing in new sponsors, and working to help you guys have a little bit better lives each and every day.
I got one last comment. We are reducing our show to just 1 episode a week for multiple different reasons we'll share later on down the road, but just as a heads up, we will only be releasing 1 episode from the foreseeable future, I guess.
Yes.
Until things change. So just a little heads up there. Cool. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.